Oh, howdy all, grab yourselves a beer. It is time for some Path of Exile discussion. Now with the Blight League starting in about 8 hours time, I have decided to put together my League starter build. Now this build will look a little bit strange if you have a look at it. Firstly, you'll note that there's almost no damage nodes on the tree. There's a lot of defensively oriented nodes, and then it's a raider. So I want to talk quickly about that. Firstly, this is a character that I'm intending to start out as a character that primarily uses evasion as a mechanic to protect itself from hits, alongside a reasonably solid life pool. Because it has almost no offensive nodes on the tree, if you're familiar with Herald of Agony, you've probably already guessed that this is a build that will be using Herald of Agony as its primary offense. Herald of Agony is an interesting skill in that it is very unlike the other heralds. It is a minion skill at heart, where when you inflict poisons on an enemy, and it gives you a chance to inflict poisons, 20% chance to poison on hit, it then gives you a unique buff called virulence. The more virulence you have, the faster it decays, and while you have at least 1 point of virulence, you have an agony crawler, which is a powerful minion that fights alongside you. When you have dozens of virulence, and it's hard capped at 40, when you have more than about 25 virulence, the agony crawler is an absolute killing machine. It deals staggering amounts of damage, knocking down bosses in seconds, and doing so with basically no support from the passive tree. The nodes that I've got that provide direct aid to the agony crawler on the tree are basically just 2 nodes that you'll see down in this section of the tree here that provide a chance to inflict poisons on hits. And those are there because they're the most compact way that I can get myself build up a 100% chance to poison on hit. So let's talk the Raider Ascendancy first. One of the key things is Avatar of the Slaughter. This node provides 8% increased evasion rating per frenzy charge, 3% move speed per frenzy charge, 3% attack speed, and 8% attack damage per frenzy charge. Huge amounts of bonuses here, and it is the reason that we're stacking as many frenzy charges as we do. We'll pick up Way of the Poacher, which gives +1 to maximum frenzy charges, as well as ensuring that you're pretty much always going to be at full frenzy charges when you're running through maps. Then, of course, we're going to pick up the Onslaught Wing, which makes you fast. The other major benefit of being a raider. Then we're looking for life and evasion rating on the passive tree. And this currently here is set up for a level 79 tree. So there's plenty of room for it to grow, although, and why have I not got that dual socket taken there? Now it's a level 80 tree. Plenty of room for the characters to grow further. You're going to come out here through the life nodes, pick up a little bit of easy bow attack speed, take some attack speed and movement speed down in quick step, then come across here, work towards phase acrobatics and swift venoms. Then after that, we'll fill out this wing, this branch up here, and come down to the Scion Life Wheel, and just the best nodes around the Duelist start. We're also going to work our way down to Disciple of the Slaughter because this node cluster is really strong. Disciple of the Slaughter itself doesn't do all that much for us, but there's enough there that it's worth taking. The key things that we're getting are 2% attack speed per frenzy charge, 2% move speed per frenzy charge, that's huge, and 5% increased evasion rating per frenzy charge. All in all, this makes for an excellent diversion down to the Duelist section of the tree, then the Scion Life Wheel, and just a couple of other really good value nodes along the way. You also pick up Sentinel, which is interesting. Evasion is one of the core defensive mechanics of this build, but just getting elemental resistances on the tree, it's not tremendously powerful, but it does free up a lot of spots on gear. And just the value here that you're getting with 30% elemental resistances total on one node is actually really considerable. There's also the option to use a Chaeola Jewel here and pick up a really nice benefit from the Sentinel node as well. So that's something that can certainly be considered as an endgame goal. Now my plans with the character, however, although I'm going to be going Herald of Agony to start with, I do ultimately want to respec them into a cold damage tornado shot that stacks dexterity. That's going to be a complete and utter respec of the character. I'm going to stick with Raider, at least to start with, but I'll have the flexibility to go to the proven Deadeye route if I want to do that instead. My goals, however, before I do that, my goals are to take down the Shaper as quickly as possible in the league, and depending on how I feel the character's going, I will consider taking on Uber Elder as well. That's going to have to be one that we test out the waters by playing around with it. So in terms of the actual skill gems that you're going to want to use, so as we said, there's not much damage on the tree, and the damage needs to come from other sources. We're going to be linking as many of the following as possible. So we're going to start out with fewer. We're not going to obviously start out with a 6 link unless I get really lucky and hit a tabula rasa while I'm leveling. So I'm just going to make do with as many of these gems as I can. Herald of Agony, link to minion damage support, link to vicious projectile support, link to damage on full life support, link to vile toxin support, and link to Maim support. This is a big reservation, but it's not unmanageable. And part of the reason that we're using vile toxins and Maim, which add a little bit of damage but aren't staggeringly efficient, is because their mana multiplier is so low that the entire package fits in without using up 100% mana, or even that, or all that close to it. Maim, however, is very expendable if mana is too tight. You can drop it and you can pick up clarity. A primary method of stacking poisons on enemies is going to be the skill Toxic Rain. Now, we're going to do some damage with Toxic Rain, but it's not going to be staggeringly high. We're going to be linking Toxic Rain to Poison, Vicious Projectiles, Void Manipulation, and Swift Affliction. This is a 5 link. Ultimately, if you can get a 6 link, then there's other options that open up as well. But the key things here are that we've got a 100% chance to poison. This comes 20% from the tree, 20% from Herald of Agony, and 60% from poison support. We're going to be using Blink linked to faster attacks, so Blink Arrow, as a way to get out of trouble quickly. And we're going to be using Wither linked to Spell Totem and faster casting as an additional source of damage against the toughest of enemies. Because a lot of the damage that the Agony Crawler deals is chaos, Wither will then amp that up, as well as the damage that I'm doing with my own attacks. The Toxic Rain damage will not be trivial, but it will not be anywhere near the heavy hitting power that the Herald of Agony's Agony Crawler will provide. Defensively, we have an enormous amount of evasion. Evasion is a very underrated mechanic and has been buffed considerably in this patch. I'm expecting it to be quite strong. But on top of evasion, we've got acrobatics and phase acrobatics providing a good deal of dodge as well. This provides an additional layer of defense, and we've got a reasonable amount of life once we pick up the Scion Life Wheel. So I'm pretty happy with the defensive side of things here. We'll amp up the defenses a little bit further by using a guard skill, and the guard skill we're going to be using is Steel Skin. I think I'm going to manually cast it, but I am open to experimenting with cast when damage taken at various levels as well. In terms of gear, can really use any bow, because a lot of the damage that we're doing is coming from Toxic Rain's own mechanics. We want a bow that attacks fairly fast. The faster it attacks, the more poisons it inflicts, and the more that the Agony Crawler can clean up the mess. Baseline chaos damage on the bow would be nice, but it's not even mandatory. Fast attacks is good, and beyond that, just some okay physical damage doesn't hurt. But very much, this build is very close to not caring about the weapon that it uses. Ultimately, once I'm able to get my hands on a Shaper bow that has a good, that is well rolled and that has the really powerful dexterity stacking mod, which adds 3 to 5 damage per 10 dexterity, cold damage per 10 dexterity. At that point, I'll be in a position to respec away from this build. However, that change won't help the build as it's set up here. For gloves, I'd love to get myself a set of Curse on Hit Corruption on an otherwise solid rare or unique. Temporal Chains would be the best curse. Despair would also be fine. High Evasion is very important, and otherwise I'm pretty content with just a Life and Resist set of gloves. For a chest, Kintsugi, which comes from the Deadly Rival Prophecies, is probably the best option, but a Life, Resist, and High Evasion rare or Queen of the Forest are also very solid choices. For boots, you want high move speed, high evasion, and then as much life and as much resistances as you can get without compromising the evasion and move speed. For rings, amulet, and helmet, it's just as simple as life and resistances. We're not really looking that much for damage on these slots. But there is the option of getting reduced mana reservation percentage. On helmets, this comes from Bound Fossils. It's a Bound Fossil exclusive mod, and it's something that's available 4 to 5% reduced reservation cost. On an amulet, you can get it on Shaper amulets at a high item level. That may not be practical, and it may well be that before I can get such an item, I will have decided to respec away from the build. In any case, I think that the Herald of Agony Raider will be effective. Even though I'm intending to respec away from it, I don't think there's anything fundamentally wrong with the build. I think it's one that will serve you well as a League starter. Herald of Agony has a long history of being a very strong, very proven way of killing bosses early in a league, and that's my goal. And then ultimately, you can then make up your own decision as to where you want to go from there. If you've got any questions though, definitely fire away. Otherwise, hope you have a good one.